Welcome to Virtual Antics, your go-to podcast for digital entrepreneurs, powered by Nandora.org and NG Virtual Assistant. We're here to guide you through every aspect of business, from networking to lead generation and so much more. Get ready to thrive in the virtual world with expert insights and our all-in-one solution, Nandora, where creating a digital business becomes a breeze. Let's dive in and revolutionize your business journey together. Hey, welcome back to the Virtual Antics Podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Guzman, and today I have the fabulous Lucy Liu, who is a global business strategist and certified life coach who helps business owners and high-performing women unstuck, because overwhelmed by cultivate rockstar confidence, see clarity, reach dream goals, and live an epic life. How cool. Hey, Lucy, how are you doing today?
Hi, Natalie. So excited to be here.
I'm so excited you're here because all those things that I just listed, I need in my life. So I'm so excited to learn more about you. So how did you get started helping entrepreneurs?
You know what? I've never worked a 9 to 5 myself. So I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. My grandpa did business. So to get that idea, right? My husband's family also is entrepreneurial. It's just runs in the family, and it's the best way to live life, I believe. The freedom to say really yes to the things that we want. But I think as I grew older, I realized it's really the freedom that to say no to the things we don't want. And that's the life that I want everyone listening to live, is to buy your own design. And how exciting is that?
Oh man, yeah, that's exactly why I went into business. So I don't know if you know about my story, but I had two kids. I was trying to have a family with my husband. My job told me I had 2 days to give birth, and then I would have to go back to work. And I was like, I don't want to live. I'm working for a job that has so much control over my life that I can't choose to take care of my body and myself. I have to worry about, how I'm going to make money with this job and keep this job. And absolutely love the freedom that comes with being an entrepreneur. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. But along the way, many entrepreneurs actually struggle with living the life they thought they would be living. I myself was there, right? Because we get to set our own hours, and sometimes we just overwork. And at some point, and I've talked to so many business owners who, I've had one guest on my podcast who actually ended up in an ambulance from overworking.
Wow.
Because we as entrepreneurs, it gets so easy to get caught up in the hustle game that working more brings in more, whereas in reality, it's what we believe. And I believe overwhelm is just a way that we are stacking thoughts upon thoughts that brings us way too much in our life. And I think that's one of the top things that people come to me for, is when they have too much on their plates. And that's what I love to help entrepreneurs to do, is to get things off our plate and actually enjoy our lives.
Yeah, you definitely need that accountability, because I know I get in that mindset a lot. And as you're talking, I was like, light bulb, light bulb, light bulb, because I was like, oh man, I do associate working more with success sometimes. And even when that hasn't been the case, my company has been successful when I'm not working as much. For some reason, I still have those beliefs and those thoughts. And I think it's because a lot of us are raised with the mindset, you're trading time for money. And so you have to put more time in. And we don't think so strategically about our time. And I think that's something entrepreneurs really need to evaluate and think about, is that our time is worth lots of money. And we have to start putting a dollar amount to that time. And then that will help us, I think, personally, evaluate whether it's something that it's worth doing or not. How much time is going to cost, and how much is that in a dollar amount? And yeah, it can be overwhelming, especially if you're an entrepreneur with a family and trying to wear all these roles and different things. Oh man. So what do you recommend, like, for entrepreneurs that are I know you probably have really in-depth process, but if just like some little tip for entrepreneurs that are feeling really overwhelmed, what's one tip you'd give them?
Absolutely. So I think of overwhelm as like an ocean. So if you are swimming in an ocean of overwhelm, and if you feel like you're drowning in this ocean of overwhelm, just remember that the harder that you struggle, the harder that you actually try to stay afloat, you actually drown more. Right. So when you relax and just let water carry you, you actually stay easily afloat. So the harder we try to fight something, actually does the opposite. And that's why I always say that when you slow down, you actually accomplish more. And with my clients, we always, no matter where you come in from on our first session, we always start with creating your own dream calendar. How would you like to actually live your life, right? What would your dream life look like? Because we often put items on our calendar and we're looking at this calendar, I'm like, oh my gosh, my calendar's full. I have a busy day, right? We always start with work. But if you want to live the life of your choosing, you should always start your calendar with how you want to live your life. Put on your calendar when you're waking up, when you're going to walk your dog, when you're going to do your yoga, when you go to sleep, when you read. So all the things you want in your life, you need to schedule them in on your calendar first because they are your non-negotiables. You're not having fun if you're not putting yourself first. And if we put work first, if we schedule work stuff on our calendar first, we never get around to do the things that we actually enjoy doing, that we sought after as an entrepreneur, the freedom that we have, right? So put in those day dates, put in those brunches first, put in your nap time first on your calendar so you get blocked off. And that's where you start to live your dream life.
That's awesome. I was laughing because we have something called NGVA nap time. So it's when me and the other employees that are higher up in my company, we're like, we're gonna take a break. We can nap, do whatever we want during this half hour, whatever. This is our time to reset ourselves. And we're always joking around about it, but we love it. And it's just so important because you need to, it's like something that's so simple, but we don't do. And like, why not? Why are we only scheduling business? And like you said, we're never going to get around to all of those things if it's not in our calendar. Because I know as an entrepreneur, I live and die by my calendar. I do every single thing that's on there. I've been having a crazy week, about 15 calls a week or a day, 15 calls a day, which is insane. Fortunately, we had a marketing technique work really well, which is great. But so I usually don't take this many calls in a day. And I wish that I had scheduled, my lunch break. Like I put lunch in there because if I did that and all this crazy stuff got on my calendar, I would have been set because it would already have been in there and there's no way that people could schedule things during those times. So especially if you have an automated process, to have that time is like really, really important. That's genius, Lucy. I love it.
Oh, I'm so glad you resonate because we, we have certain predetermined meaning for success. And I think I really want to debunk that is that you get to determine what success looks like for you. Because a lot of entrepreneurs think that, oh, someone is making $1 million, right? That's my goal. Like I would be successful if I were making $1 million. But what if you can't sleep at night making $1 million? What if, that person that you actually looked up to, they spent 2 million in ads making $1 million? So first, I want to say that it's not always how it seems, right? From the outside. So don't look at someone else's success. Look at your own success. Are you living the life of your choosing? Because if you're listening to this podcast, we already know you're no BS. We know you're a rock star and that's how you got this far in life, right? But there's more to life. And I think that we need to have more fun in life. We all need more alive people on this earth, that we're just going to be here smiling at everyone we encounter during our days. And that's how we should live life. Really, just to have fun along the way. Yes, you can make more money. Yes, you can make more impact, but none of that is, you know, fun if we're not having fun.
Yeah, and it's so true, and I have two very different scale clients. I have the clients that are just trying to hit six figures, and then I have clients that are over seven figures and up. And one of the things I've noticed is that the ones that are under six figures are the ones that are texting me work questions at 11 o'clock at night. And the ones that are making like millions of dollars are not. They will only message me during what their business hours are and what mine are, which is usually, somewhere like around the 9 to 5 type area. And it's crazy because I always thought it would be the opposite way around. You'd be busier when you have more money, but that's actually not true, as we're hearing from you today as well. It's like, it's absolutely amazing once you get out of that hustle culture that you're able to like really plan, design your life, and then, work around it. I don't think work should be our center. I think work should be something that we're just doing as part of our day, but it shouldn't be all about our day either. And I think that's really easy for entrepreneurs, just to make their whole life about their job, even though we are passionate about it. It's not the only thing we're passionate about.
Oh, I absolutely feel you, Natalie, on that one, because the higher level the client is at, the less they need us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. I want my clients to ask me questions, but you see a pattern where there's more self-belief, where there's more confidence. And of course, even the most powerful women temporarily forget their power. And there are days that you need a little confidence boost. But your well of wisdom is all inside of you. You know the answer. And many, especially women, many of us, we're just always seeking external validation. We're always waiting for that perfect time. We're waiting for that, certain signs. It's all there. Give yourself the sign. You have the sign to slow down. You have the sign, you have the permission to take your naps. You have the permission to watch or even to binge Netflix, right? I tell my client it's okay. You don't have to feel guilty about it because it's what you're doing. Just schedule it on your calendar. Right. I had a client, she felt so much better. She was like, oh my God, Lucy, you're a lifesaver. Now I actually get to watch Netflix on Friday nights or watch movies on Saturdays. Yeah, it's your life. There's no right or wrong. I mean, hustling is great. We're hardworking women. And you should know that by now if you're listening to this podcast already. But there's more to life than just working, and hustling only gets you so far. So is there balance? Sometimes we feel like there's no really a true balance, just like how equilibrium is in economics, right? It's always changing point. There's no really one intersection, because if you are single, you're busy. If you have 5 kids, you're busy. If you've got 10 kids, you're busy, right? So however your life is, it's going to be busy, right? Because we fill our days with busyness if we choose to. But if we fill our days with joyful activities, the fun activities like taking naps and watching Netflix, anything is possible, because then we become more productive. Then we look at our calendar. Oh, we only have, 3 hours today for work. I only have 3 hours. Then what's my priority? How am I going to make those 3 hours more productive? Then instead of just really rolling it out throughout the day.
Yeah, and I feel like you mentioned it earlier, but you make a lot less mistakes when you are working less hours. And I know we just had this couple months ago, we had a situation where had a lot of clients come in at once. We were working them all, and my team was making mistake after mistake after mistake. And I was like, why is this happening? These were some of my top people. I was like, we never make this many mistakes. What is going on? And then I looked at the client list and all the to-dos, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're not only doing so many different things, but they're doing so many things with so many clients, and they were so overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, I felt horrible. And I was like, this is why we're making mistakes, because we overworked ourselves. And so we can't think. It's like when your head gets cloudy. Oh, I hate that feeling. That's when I know I've overworked myself, is because my head is just a huge cloud and I can't think. And I'm probably misplacing my keys or forgetting to make dinner, because that happens too. And it's funny because even though it's our work life, it blends into your personal life as well. And it makes me more short with my children, right? Or maybe I just don't have as much patience. I have a 6 and a 7-year-old. I need all the patience I can get with them. And sometimes, work, if I'm overworking myself, I'm not being the best mom and the best wife I can. So yeah, it's a really good point. You really need to be careful about overworking yourself and living that life that you want.
Yeah, beautifully said. And as business owners, right? When you transform the business of your life, that's when you transform the life of your business. Because as business owners, our lives and businesses are really intercollected, that it's connected in every way possible. And you mentioned you felt that overload. And I think there's a difference between overwhelm and overload, because overwhelm is the stacking of our thoughts. When we're overthinking and spending extra time on overthinking, because I've heard clients say, I just actually spent an hour yesterday thinking about how I've been overthinking lately, right? We do that, we overthink. So if we continue to overthink, we become overwhelmed because there's so many thoughts going on in our head. But overload is when we actually have too much on our calendars and too many things to do. And that is why I really hate to-do lists, and I pretty much took them out completely out of my life.
Oh.
So people ask me, how do you tackle your to-do list? I don't have one, because one, it should be on your calendar, right? We live by our calendar. If it can be done in 2 to 5 minutes, do it right now. And yes, there are those nights that I'm just really energetic and I'm really awake and I don't feel like going to sleep. I go to sleep very early usually, but there are those nights. So even if I'm sending an email at 11 p.m., I would schedule it in Gmail to go out in the morning.
Yeah.
So that people receiving my email, they would never see me sending an email at 11 p.m. because I don't want them to expect that to be the norm. Yeah. The norm is to find me in normal daylight hours. So you have to set those boundaries yourself, right? So it's perfectly okay to work whenever you choose, but don't let that become a habit for you, and don't let others expect you to be available at those hours. So, I had one client, I taught her these and she was like, oh man, that's so scary, right? So she had a client who was rushing her to push up a due date. And she took my advice and she replied, I had your work scheduled for this time on my calendar. But she was really sweating it, right? And then afterwards, she said she got the reply from a client that, wow, you're very responsible person and I really trust your work. So you see, we get caught up in our own world that we think if a client is rushing for our work, it has to be done now. But it doesn't always have to be that way.
Yeah, that's really smart. And we work with clients all the time, and due dates tend to be like the number one thing that we always do a due date 1 week later than what's on our calendar. So that way it gives us, because life happens too. So we always do a 1 week buffer, especially on large projects. And then that gives us, the flexibility of, rearranging some things if we have to. Hopefully we don't. But it also gives us that breath of fresh air where we're like, oh, we don't have to rush this because we have a week buffer if we have to. And it works out really great on the really large projects. And I haven't had any issues with due dates since we started, at least with clients, since we started using that 1 week buffer. It's been pretty great.
Yeah, awesome. And even when you miss deadlines, I think people think it's the end of the world.
Oh, yeah.
But if, 3 years down the road, it's okay. Give grace to yourself. And I think many of us are actually too hard on ourselves. And then when we're hard on ourselves, we get hard on the people around us.
Yeah.
People like our family members, our kids, they feel that tension. And you don't want them to learn that type of energy, that vibe that you are in a rush all the time. That's not something that you want to give off.
Yeah, and it can actually cause anxiety. My daughter has anxiety with time, and I realize it stems from a little bit of my anxiety with time, and that stems from my father's anxiety with time. So we are working on that. So that's really interesting you mentioned it, because that's something we're working on in our household. Because like yesterday, she, they get off the bus at like 3, and then she has to go cheer practice for 6, but she has to do her homework and eat in between there. And my daughter has dyslexia, so homework takes a while for us. So she's like, I can't do this paper because I don't have enough time. I was like, you have all the time in the world. It's like, you just take a deep breath and we're gonna tackle this. But it was a light bulb moment for me, because I was like, man, my anxiety is now stemming off my daughter's, because I remember last week saying, we don't have enough time before practice. And I was like, oh, I can't say that. Can't say that. So yeah, so that's really, really interesting. And I think that is something a lot of us, struggle with as entrepreneurs, and we are too hard on ourselves. So you gave us so much to think about, and really, like, I encourage everyone to really take the time to sit down, think about what they really want, and put everything in their schedule, because I thought that was an amazing tip. Where can everyone find more about you and your services, Lucy?
Awesome. So if you're already in your favorite podcast platform, might as well go search up my podcast. It's the Lucy Liu Show. It's LucyLiu. It's a fairly short weekly episode, fueling station for your mind, business, and life. So you can start there, and then you'll be able to find me everywhere on social at MSLucyLiu, Miss Lucy Liu.
Awesome. I'll make sure I put that in the show notes as well. But thank you again, Lucy, for coming on the show. I've had a blast.
Thank you for having me, Natalie, and to all the beautiful souls listening. More blessings are coming your way.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll talk to you guys next time.